Last week, two American banks collapsed, the Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank. And it's not over yet. There was a bank run. Depositors rushed to withdraw cash. The bank was not liquid enough, meaning it did not have enough free cash. That's because the deposits were tied up in government bonds. There was a bank run. There are many banks in trouble, some more than the others.
Upon analyzing the data on excess deaths, scientists claim more than 20,000 people have died across Western Europe in this summer's heat waves. According to the Office for National Statistics, in England and Wales, 3,271 excess deaths were recorded between the 1st of June and the 7th of September. This marks a whopping 6.2% rise than the 5-year average. The summer of 2022 was the hottest on record. A recent warning issued by the European Environment Agency saying that if nothing is done to control the ongoing climate crisis, heat waves could lead to the deaths of 90,000 Europeans each year by the end of the century.
Now we start with some sad news out of Mississippi, where a devastating EF4 tornado has brought heartache and loss. EF4s are considered violent and extremely rare, making up only about 1% of all tornadoes. More than 20 million people in the South and parts of the Midwest were under severe storm threats as of Sunday, and at least 10 tornadoes were confirmed to have hit Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee over the weekend. 26 people across the Southeast were killed, dozens more injured from these powerful storms. We're going to go now to Rolling Fork, Mississippi, a town of fewer than 2,000 people where residents saw absolute destruction of their homes and businesses. The mayor said that the city is just gone. The town was hit by winds of speeds of up to 170 miles per hour. Drone footage shows homes completely leveled and unrecognizable. Vehicles were tossed around like they were nothing. Trees snapped and splintered. Search and rescue efforts took place over the weekend, but those who were found and needed help had to be transported 50 miles away to a hospital because the one nearby wasn't available.
20 earthquakes within the last 24 hours. Actually, most of them are within the last 4 hours. And a depth of 2.3 miles, 1.4 miles, 2 miles, this one here shallow, 0.9 miles, 2 miles, there's the 3.1. Give you an idea where these earthquakes are occurring. Let me bring it out. Yeah, this is probably on the edge of the bulge, and there is a fault line that goes through here. And there's also hydrothermal fields throughout this station, or throughout this location. The first monitor I have here on the left is for Yellowstone Lake. That's up by the fishing bridge. That's a borehole. It's a very deep well under the ground. The next one is Madison River, Mary Lake. I've talked about Mary Lake and how the magma sloshes around. And then over here on the western boundary. Going to the stream view, this is what's currently showing. This one right here, that is the borehole for Yellowstone Lake. This is Mary Lake. And I've talked about, the magma there. Okay, let's come up. Okay, Madison River at the top. Next one down, western boundary. Again, Yellowstone Lake, you can see that right there. And then Mary Lake at the bottom. Should we be concerned? Yes.
In 1859, there was a geomagnetic storm so big that the aurora was visible in Hawaii. This thing was the largest geomagnetic storm in recorded history. It was called the Carrington event. A solar superstorm like this is not unusual. It could happen again today, and it would be way worse, like way worse. It would cost more than the top 10 natural disasters in the US combined to recover from. So yeah, these solar superstorms are getting more and more likely leading up to 2025. Average every 11 years, the sun's north and south pole switch. So the Carrington event happened coming into the maximum of the 10th cycle of the sun, the 10th since 1755, when we started recording that the sun came in cycles. 11 years, you have more of a potential for a hit of a solar superstorm. And the last time, it missed us by 9 days because the sun was just facing the wrong way. So yeah, 2012 is the near miss where a Carrington-sized event just missed Earth.
Wait, it happened in 2012?
2012.
The end of the world year? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but the end of the world just missed us. And it missed us by 9 days because the sun spins about every 25 days. It just happened to be not facing us by a 9-day miss. So we're now in the 25th solar cycle and we're coming into the peak of it. You get increased solar flares and you also get increased CMEs or coronal mass ejections. Do you know what that is? It's like sun vomit. Whenever you get that snapping, you release a lot of mass that shoots material off into space that we call the solar wind. It literally is mass because a bunch of SpaceX satellites just fell out of the sky when there was a big solar wind event because the atmosphere literally became thicker. It became too dense and slowed down the satellites to the point where they couldn't recover and they fell down to Earth and burned up the atmosphere.
Oh.
That just happened.
Crazy.
So it's a big deal when the sun's magnetic field flips. For us, what it means is these periods of heightened and potentially extreme solar activity. So the peak of the solar cycle will happen in 2025.
Oh, cool.
So that means increasing solar activity right now.
The Chinese leadership realized population was growing too fast and something needs to be done. The government came out with a policy.
They called it later, longer, fewer. Later marriages, longer birth intervals, and fewer births. As a result, China's birth rate started trending down. But it wasn't low enough for China's leaders, and in 1980, they implemented the extreme one-child policy, which limited most families to one child.
That policy was also backed up by very harsh measures. There were campaigns of sterilization, IUD insertion, and induced abortions.
And while these campaigns began during the later, longer, fewer era, they were at their worst under the one-child policy, when China sterilized 20 million men and women and induced nearly 15 million abortions in a single year. But China had accomplished its goal. Population growth was under control.